whoever wrote that was just on seriously hard drugs. And in their come down, they fucked this class in particular as an apology.
Welcome to Monsters Multiclass, your Dungeons and Dragons fix. I'm Kevin Odie.
I'm Jared Bornagle.
And I'm Will Melvin.
And we'll be hanging out with you for a while to talk about anything and everything D&D related. On this episode, we're taking a look at the Artificer Rogue multiclass, and then the Duergar from the Monster Manual and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So pull up a chair and stick around for a while.
Our multiclass this episode is going to be the Artificer Rogue. So we discussed Artificers last week. They are the magical engineers of the D&D world. They're also half-casters and can create some magical items through their infusions. They take 13 intelligence to multiclass into. Then the Rogue is the cunning, sneaky opportunist. This martial class fights with a few well-placed attacks rather than hacking endlessly, and then usually can move to get out of the fray as quickly as they got into it. 13 decks to multiclass into that. So let's go ahead and get some first thoughts. Kevin, what are you thinking about this?
Overall, I think this one's pretty solid. It's not amazing. It's not going to make its way to the multiclass Hall of Fame with the Palarderer or the Paladin Warlock or really Paladin, any charisma.
Paladin
anything.
Bard or
yeah.
Paladin.
And I think there's a problem with Paladins. But it's solid if you like the kind of fantasy of the sort of dexterous, stealthy, nimble fighter who enhances things with magic items and technology. Great. Or if you just want to be an artificer who's just a little more sneaky and dexterous, great. It's not going to be terrible. You're going to run into some bonus action woes that you need to come to terms with, but we'll get to all that in a bit.
Will, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I've kind of resigned myself to any legitimate combos with the Artificer. It just is kind of a strange thing to multiclass in. So I usually look at it from, can you enhance your Artificer experience with this? And the Rogue generally is a yes to that. But like Kevin said, you are competing with bonus actions. My opinion is that the resourceless bonus actions you are granted by a Rogue are just always good, though.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the elephant in the room, is that the Rogue's big thing is their cunning action that they get at second level, where they can use a bonus action to dash, disengage, or hide for free all the time. It's absolutely amazing. The best Artificer subclasses both use their bonus action really every turn. I think it would be expected. The Artillerist has their Eldritch Cannons that they need to use a bonus action to command, and the Battlesmith has their Steel Defender that takes a bonus action to command. So, that said, as Will mentioned, I think there's still some benefit just to even having those options for bonus actions at all times. You still get the Rogue sneak attack, so there's going to be a lot to work with, and definitely a lot to unpack with this multiclass. And I think if you get too tied up in the bonus action business, it's going to hinder you a lot more than it helps.
Yeah, for sure. There is always the argument of, it's just versatility, but it does, if you have like 7 different options for your bonus action and they're all decent, it does, every time you get it, kind of reduce its effectiveness as it just taking it.
Yeah, and I think we see that with the Monk more than anything, where it's like, yeah, their bonus action's really good, but if you have any other use for it, it just sucks.
Right. So I think probably the best bet for Artificer going with Rogue is the Battlesmith, and this is also going to be one of the biggest ones where you run into a bonus action issue. So the Battlesmith's main thing is it allows you to use your intelligence for attack and damage instead of dex or strength. You can replace it as long as you're using a magic weapon, but it's pretty easy for an Artificer to give themselves a magic weapon, so it shouldn't be an issue. One thing to note, you can still use sneak attack. I think a lot of people hear sneak attack and they say it needs to be a finesse weapon, and so they think, you have to use dex to attack. You don't. You just need to physically be using a finesse weapon. It could be a finesse weapon of strength, or in this case, a finesse weapon using intelligence. So you can still sneak attack.
Or it could be a ranged weapon as well. So, your crossbows and longbows, perfectly reasonable.
And then the other main thing they get is the Steel Defender. It's basically a robot dog that they can control, and it fights with them. It's kind of just like a better version of the Ranger Beastmaster. But instead of being able to pick any beast, it's a robot dog.
It doesn't have to be a dog.
No,
We
I'm
talked
pretty sure
about
it is
this.
to be a
You
dog.
can flavor it however you want.
The art's pretty clearly a dog.
It's right there in the picture. It's a robot dog.
It is.
Well, maybe this is a time where the art is limiting creativity because it can be whatever
I
you
feel
want.
enhanced with all the possible dogs I can come up with in my head, man.
Yeah. No, it's also pretty clear this very specific type of dog. I don't know dogs well enough to name that breed, but that's like a really specific kind of type of hound.
Yeah, it looks like a basset hound, but I don't think that's right.
Oh, its ears are long
One of those
enough,
hounds.
yeah. So yeah, you get your robot dog. Which is really great for a rogue, because rogue sneak attack, probably the main reason you will have your sneak attack come off is if the thing you're attacking has an enemy within 5 feet. Your Steel Defender will satisfy that. And you can move it and have it take its reaction without using your bonus action. So that's also another way to get around it. So when it goes immediately after you, you position it next to your enemy, and then there it sits, it'll tank some hits, and it will trigger your sneak attack. But if you wanted to attack or anything like that, dash, disengage, help, hide, whatever, then it's using your bonus action, and it's kind of stepping on your rogue toes. But
Yeah, and that was actually one of the first things that I saw as well, because this Steel Defender, I think you're right, is going to be our best bet for this combo. But what you're getting out of the Steel Defender, even if you don't use your bonus action to command it, is still pretty good. Its reaction that it can use without being commanded imposes disadvantage on an attack from a creature within 5 feet, as long as that attack is not against the Steel Defender. So, gives an attack disadvantage. That's fantastic.
Right.
And then by default, if you don't command it, it's dodging.
Right.
It doesn't have that crazy high of AC. It's just 15, and I don't think that goes up ever. So, it's not going to use that AC to block too many hits, but once you have the fact that it's dodging on top of it, disadvantage on all attacks against it, that's pretty good.
Right.
And you're going to get a lot more mileage out of this thing being alive and near your enemies, more than you are going to get from the 1d8 of damage it does when it attacks.
yeah. Yeah, and also if let's say you're ranged and you run this thing out and you're shooting out at your enemy from the back, there's a really good chance you aren't going to need to dash, disengage, or hide. And so then you have your bonus action and then have it attack anyways, and then there's a free D8 plus 2.
Yeah, it's always an enhanced. It's when you need it, you rarely need to use other stuff, with some exceptions. Monks get hit by this way harder because it's just their bread and butter is the bonus action. But like you said, you don't need to hide every single round. You can if you don't like your DM, but
Right. Or you may not be able to if you're just standing in like an open field or a room. You can't just hide. So already maybe we already overstated the bonus action woes. Because with the Steel Defender, it doesn't sound that bad actually.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be limited to this Battlesmith. The Artillerist, you're going to hit that exact thing that we just talked about.
Right.
But for this Battlesmith, I really don't think it's a problem at all.
Right.
Where I think it's just a benefit, and I think it does make both classes a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes it makes the Artificer martial focused melee or ranged. And then you could do a ranged. I was just double checking you could do a ranged. Yeah, you can.
you also get your extra attack, which is
yes. Yep, then 5th level.
Yep.
Extra attack, which is great for a rogue. If you take it all the way to 9th, Arcane Jolt for more damage or a bit of healing, stuff like that.
And even just to back it up, just what you get from Artificer in general, medium armor proficiency, which is usually good. Rogues can rely on light armor very often because they're going 20 into dex anyways. But with this combination, you're probably going to focus more on intelligence first, dex later. So having that medium armor is going to make you not have to worry about that as much. Then you also get spells. I mean, you get spell casting that you normally would not get as a rogue. In the same way that Arcane Trickster is pretty useful. having even just a bit of spellcasting for your Artificer is going to be quite nice. And the only time you really need to use your first level spells is if you're bringing back your Steel Defender, which hopefully isn't that often, seeing as, again, it's going to be dodging almost every single turn.
Right, and then you could heal it for the Mending cantrip, so out of combat, just heal it up to full without any resources.
Or it has its repair ability, which means, yeah, you're foregoing your hide, dash, disengage action or bonus action, but you can still use that bonus action to restore 2d8 plus 2 HP to itself as an action. Once again, pretty good. That's only 3 times a day, but that's, I guess, comes down to, what's the math? 5, so 10, 12, so 36 HP that it can heal itself per day.
Something like that.
The math's right. Believe me, Kevin. I didn't get that accounting degree for nothing.
The better figure out averages of D&D dice. 4-year degree right there.
So I think this is, like, honestly, a really good combination. Maybe it doesn't make its way into the multi-class Hall of Fame because most of those ones are pretty broken, but it gets a nomination.
I was going to say,
in my opinion.
now that we're talking through it as a group, instead of me just reading it, sitting alone in the dark, all sad, it's definitely...
You're so much more negative when you've been drinking, Kevin.
No, it is definitely pretty decent.
Yeah, and just to keep going into this, the infusions that the Artificer get are also going to be quite helpful for this combination because now you can get a crossbow with repeating shot.
Right.
Or a gun.
So
I was going to say, or lead in
gun.
if it's the right campaign, go in the gun variant. And that's perfect.
For sure.
Rogue with a gun. Yep. On the rogue side, Arcane Trickster is definitely a good pick because you're going to be focusing so much on intelligence. They also use intelligence. And so it just kind of boosts spell casting, some additional options, things like that. If you want to go really nuts, maybe I don't think you want to, but you could get Find Familiar. And then take the Homunculus Invocation. And so you have 3 little pets to like swarm the battlefield and give you sneak attack wherever you want. And it doesn't take your bonus action to have the familiar move. Is that correct? I should know this because I'm playing an Arcane Trickster, but I'm blanking on it because it's been a while.
No, I think it's
yes.
its own
They
initiative.
They move on their own. You don't need to command them. They roll their own initiative. Right. They act on their own.
Right. So I mean, it's probably overkill to have 3 of them, but it's kind of neat.
Yeah, I don't think I'd bother.
Right.
but yes, if you wanted to play that, you are more than welcome to. Right. I was thinking of, so I posed this question to Twitter, which I normally don't do, but people gave a ton of great replies of just random combinations and whatnot. And I think one of my favorite was from Steven, who suggested Inspector Gadget, where you do a Mastermind and the Battlesmith Artificer. And so now you have like a detective Artificer, and you also have the little dog that Inspector Gadget has. But he posed the question of should Inspector Gadget be a Warforged?
No.
Yeah, it's a real head scratcher.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. How can you say he's not so confidently, Will?
Because it's totally different lore.
What?
It's like a thing. They were like automatons. They forged their own path. Inspector Gadget was just a dude with gadgets in his hands.
Not just in his hands, dude. It's like his entire body.
So he was basically the friendly version of RoboCop.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm sure some executive somewhere was aware of RoboCop. And it's like, what if we make that but for kids? And then Inspector Gadget was born.
Yeah, probably.
Though I watched the hell out of that show when I was a kid. And also the dog is Penny's dog, by the way. It's not Inspector Gadget's dog.
You're right.
Isn't Penny his niece or something?
It's something like that.
Yeah. I hope so. Otherwise, like, somebody needs to step in.
Daughter?
That's really weird. I don't think it's his daughter. I don't know why I don't think it is, but it doesn't matter. Guys, everybody has told us we need to stop getting really into the lore of miscellaneous shows and movies that we haven't seen in years.
I was going to say, who said that? Isn't
no
that
one.
You? Yeah. People love it. That's a brand. No one's told me that either, I'm guessing.
Say that shit, you're banned. You're just banned.
So Mastermind, for what it's worth, I think it's still worth talking about mechanically. Mm-hmm. Its big thing is it does give you an additional use of your bonus action, which might not get the use you usually would want. It allows you to take the help action from 30 feet away as a bonus action. In the same way that I think you're going to have more opportunities to use your rogue bonus action than you'd expect. I think that this might come up a little more than not at all. But I always just find that ability in general is a little tough to contend with the already very useful uses of the rogue's cunning action.
Yeah, because you need to keep in mind the help action. It gives advantage on exactly one attack, and it's the next attack you can't even pick. So if initiative's weird, and it's like you want to give it to the paladin who's going to smite, but then like the wizard who's just casting a cantrip attacks it, they would get it, the advantage, things like that.
So let's go over that because help comes up so infrequently in combat. So you're telling me that if you take the help action, you have to do it on a creature, saying like, I want to use the help action against that person. The next attack has.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you help an individual. When you take the help action, the creature you aid gains advantage on the next ability check. Oh nope, sorry. Alternatively, you can aid a friendly creature. Right. Yeah, in attacking a creature within 5 feet of you, you feint, distract the target, or in some other way, team up to make your ally's attack more effective. If your ally attacks the target before your next turn, the first attack roll is made with advantage. Yeah, so there's two parts of it. I was right and then got mixed up and then got right again. Yeah, in combat, the help action is targeting a foe, and the next attack gets advantage.
That makes sense. So I think that's still okay. I mean, it's in the same deal of if you don't have a better use for your bonus action, I guess I could see you using it. Yeah. But when you have the Steel Defender, it feels like that's always going to be the better thing. An extra attack is better than giving advantage on an attack.
Generally. Yeah.
Generally, yeah. I'll say there's definitely some times where that's proven wrong.
So I'd say Mastermind just by itself. You're just a Mastermind Rogue, no multi-classing. Master of Tactics is pretty nice because since it's the bonus action, you still get your full attack and then throw out a free help action every single turn. Especially if you have a longbow in the back or something.
Right.
I don't think rogues get longbows, but anyways. Yeah, if you multi-class with other stuff, like with the Steel Defender, not too sure.
Yeah, this is an example where it is stepping on itself pretty bad. Because it's great if that's your throwaway bonus action every turn.
Right. I still like it flavor-wise. I think that like the just combination of Artificer and Mastermind do seem very fitting. They're both cunning and playing up to those strengths of the characters, and that's where I think there's a lot of flavor overlap between these two in a good way, that it does enhance the two. As you said earlier, Kevin, you get this martial character who enhances everything they do through technology and through just being smart. I mean, seriously, they're very intelligent creatures here.
It's literally the opposite of Inspector Gadget.
Oh, you're right. Inspector Gadget was stupid. And that's fair. He's the springboard, Will, all right? Don't get too wrapped up in making that exact character.
But now I am. And now I'm thinking about Kevin's terrible detective. And it's a hilarious archetype. And it's super easy to play. Because if you think about it, every single table in America right now is just bumbling buffoons pretending to be cool. And they screw it up because the DM has like all these cool ideas. Yeah, the Europeans.
In Europe, they're actually just super cool. They're cool people playing the game to be even cooler.
But here in America, we're just doofuses, and the DM's like, "All right, they're gonna do this," and then they don't because they're just dummies, dumb dummies. So if you just embrace it and be the goofball, everyone has more fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you, and I think that's a fun character to say the least. And I will also say that even if you just ignore the benefits of what you get out of the rogue's bonus action, so like, with Arcane Trickster, you get a whole bunch of stuff. It's probably better mechanically. If you just take the base rogue class and add that to Artificer, you still have a good character.
For sure. Yeah, even like a 1-level dip gets you expertise, sneak attack. Well, Thieves' Gone, but But just expertise and
Don't be
sneak
so
attack.
dismissive, Kevin. It's so good.
2 levels then to get you cunning action.
Right.
It's 2 levels is basically the minimum, but you could definitely miss your archetype entirely.
Yeah. I'm going to say, I think the only one that has like a really good front-loaded archetype that's going to come up a lot, well, it would probably be Mastermind with the help as a bonus action. And maybe Scout, because the Skirmisher, if something ends within 5 feet of you, you could move half your speed and not provoke opportunity. Arcane Trickster, obviously the spell casting will come up, but it's really, really limited at level 3. You get 2 first level slots.
Correct, but the benefit is that you're expanding your spell list.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the Arcane Tricksters get to pull from the Wizard list, specifically enchantment and illusion spells, which there are some great options that are, not artillery, sorry, that Artificers just don't get. So, believe Hold Person, that's a 2nd level one, so you'd have to get up to 7th level, which might take a while. But there are other ones. Please hold as I comb through my notes. Here we are. Okay, so Tasha's Hideous Laughter is a 1st level spell, which I think is really quite good. And adding that to the Artificer with Intelligence as your spellcasting modifier means that that's going to be a pretty useful spell as time goes on, even if you don't get up to 2nd level. If you do get to 2nd level, though, you get access to Blur, which is an amazing spell, and Hold Person. Both of those are great.
What school is Hold Person?
Hold Person is enchantment, I believe.
For some reason I thought it wasn't. Which means you can't pick it, but...
Right. Yeah, if you get all the way up to 8th level, then you can take, like, 1 spell from any of the wizard school.
Right.
Or, sorry, wizard class, which might be useful. I mean...
Yeah, you get one of those at 1st level as well.
That's a cantrip, I thought.
No, 3 1st level spells, 2 of which must be enchantment and illusions.
You're totally right. That's Eldritch Knights that have to wait until 8th level for their outside of school one.
Well, and then at 8th, 14th, and 20th, you could pick a spell that comes from. So it's kind of both, but yeah.
Right.
Okay, actually, I'm backpedaling on my comment about, most of these aren't all that front-loaded. Actually, most of them are. They're like Inquisitive. You get 3 things as an Inquisitive Rogue. The Eye for Deceit.
You do, but I hate them all.
I like them. I mean,
hate's a strong
if you
word.
like the Mastermind, which is not a combat-focused one, the Inquisitive Rogue is just the same. I would actually almost say the Inquisitive Rogue might work better for Inspector Gadget. Because that's the one that's...
Yeah. They're both spies. Their flavor's the same. Why did they make 2 classes?
Well, one's a detective. The Inquisitive Rogue...
And the other one's a spy. They're the same thing.
It's not the same thing. The Inquisitive Rogue's not trying to, like, go undercover and, like, manipulate the powers that be. They're just, like, trying to solve crimes and shit.
But they could be.
Sure.
And nobody would, like, bat an eye if the Inquisitive Rogue was like, oh, yeah, I'm also more of a spy here, or whatever. It's just...
I'd bat an eye.
Also, I think the Mastermind, the idea is to more like they're at the head of organizations. The Mastermind almost seems more like an NPC subclass. Or unless you're playing like a very much non-combat, more intrigue type game. Like a Mastermind might fit really well in Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Where an Inquisitive's kind of, I see them more as like they're acting solo. They're like a freelance detective for hire or whatever. And they do get a bit more things in combat. Actually, that's not true either. I need to keep backpedaling everything I say. Really, their only combat thing is insightful fighting. As a bonus action, you can make an insight check opposed to an enemy's deception check. If you succeed, you can have sneak attack on them for a minute, as long as you don't have disadvantage. You don't need any other criteria met. Which is nice.
It's okay. If you're with Battlesmith, if you're going Battlesmith, I feel like you're not going to like have this issue too often anyways.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, like, spending an entire bonus action, not like it's that much, but spending a bonus action to get that doesn't feel totally worthwhile to me. I'd like to see that one in actual play, how it shakes out, again, in combination with the Artificer. I think it's a good subclass ability in general, though.
Yeah, it does give you more bonus action fighting than Inquisitive, because you get that, and then you also get Eye for Detail. As a bonus action, you can make a perception check to spot hidden creatures. Which, depending on the campaign, could be really nice because it could be super annoying to have to constantly take your entire action to find a hidden creature, as we figured out last week during our playing session. But again, it's more bonus action competition.
Man, I don't even remember what happened. That was like a full 5 days ago.
The Ranger.
Did you guys have to search for something? Oh, yeah, that was annoying. Well, it was a taste of your own medicine because we've got the rogue in our party, and they just hide every single turn. I'm tired of it.
Yeah. Yeah, the hiding is a little weird with 5th edition rules. I feel a lot of it's left up to DM discretion. It's kind of like if you don't want them to be able to hide every single turn, it's more like you almost need to just kind of be mean and say, no, you've been shooting them from their rack for like 5 turns now. Just because you move 10 feet to the other side of the rack doesn't mean you're hidden. They know you're there. You can't hide anymore unless you completely move.
Right, and it always feels shitty because, and I feel like we've had this conversation before because I've had times where I definitely got a little bit annoyed, like, how could you be hiding? And it's like, well, that's the rogue's thing. The rogue needs to be able to hide or else they start falling behind every other class. And
that's true.
It's like, I don't know if that's
I guess
true.
Would be the question.
Yeah, think about like Embers in our main campaign, mainly rogue. He never hides.
Barely hides.
It's,
But he's also a paladin, so
you stir in paladin and you're like, why rogues are so overpowered. Not what was the issue there, buddy.
Embers was pretty strong. I guess he's not dead. But yeah, so I guess I just hate being the jerk as a DM. I hate like trying to or having to just say like, no, you're not hidden because I say so. It always feels like it just feels mean. That's exactly what you said. I don't know. I don't feel good about it. I want a rules reason to tell me that no, they can't hide anymore. Like, you know, after you hide, you have to move at least 10 feet in order to hide again.
right.
I honestly think that if you just have to do line of sight, in my personal opinion, can they see them? Yes or no, you know?
Right, but that gets tricky when you're talking about like, oh, they're hiding in a tree.
Okay, then they can't see
Can they
them.
see them?
But
Okay,
they shouldn't be able to pop out, shoot someone with an arrow, and then literally without moving, take the hide action to blend back into the tree, and everyone just forgets they're there.
That's the thing. If you're blocking your own line of sight in a tree, that should have its own penalties.
Meaning that like you should be having the half cover and 3/4 cover because you're trying to shoot through a tree.
Yeah, if that's enough to block like line of sight, if you're letting them not be seen, in my opinion, yes. Now,
Okay,
if
well,
you're
then you
talking
just have
about
the sharpshooter
movement,
feet and
now if we're talking about like no movement, if they get discovered, you know, that spot's kind of gone for now. Whatever.
right, and that was one thing that I maybe that specifically, but just the idea that once you are found by a single creature, it's like they can now just alert everybody, hey, they're hiding right there, and you are no longer hidden. So, you know, like I think that's one thing that's not really clearly stated either. Like, what does it mean to be found? And to me, that means that the person sees you, calls you out, and says, look over here if you're looking for this person. I see them. And you don't need, like, much more beyond that.
But I think we do need to address, why do you give a shit if they're hiding or not?
Because
What's your
hiding is
issue?
really strong.
In what way? That's like I'm trying to get this out of you.
Yeah, that's fair. It gives advantage on
Doesn't
an
matter.
attack.
I'll say that.
Okay, but that gives them sneak attack regardless of anything's around them, plus,
Yep.
you know, advantage.
Totally fine.
So, okay. Second of all, if they're hidden, that means that all attacks against them have disadvantage.
But they can't even really be targeted.
That's what I'm getting at. That's the issue, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's not invisible.
Because
It's just they don't know. They don't know. I'm doing air quotes here that they're there, even though they just fired from them from the same spot. But
And that's the hard part, is like, how do you fire at a thing that you don't know is there? You can't.
Right.
So I don't know. I, in practice, have not found advantage to matter as soon as you hit like level 11, 12, 13, 14, because you just start getting ridiculously up there in your hits. And it just doesn't matter.
It's working pretty well for our champion fighter rogue, though, who crits on 19s and 20s.
That's pretty nice.
He accidentally made a crit fisher, and I don't think he realized what he was doing, but it worked out for him.
mm-hmm.
I'm glad. I always think those classes are underplayed because they don't really work that well.
It seems to be working pretty well for him.
It's working all right.
So, yeah, I guess, I don't know. We've found the problem, which is when you're hidden, you can't be targeted. What do you do from there? Big old shrug?
Yeah, I don't know, man. How do you fight a thing you can't see or don't know is there? It's just give everything some kind of AoE fire spell.
That's actually a good point. Burning down the tree that the rogue is hiding in is a perfectly viable option.
Yeah, I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now, and probably my least favorite thing so far is there's like fire bottles and stuff that you'd expect in D&D. They give every fucking enemy a fire bottle, an acid vial, a straight up fucking bomb, sometimes multiple of these things. So you're like, all right, this Null's going to come at me with a sword. No, he's going to throw bombs at you. Fuck it.
Yeah.
They're like 3 gold too, so it's just like you can't even, I don't know.
Well, there you go. That's how I'll start getting around this. All enemies will start carrying Molotov cocktails. It's like, oh, you're hiding behind that rock? Molotov. It's actually not a bad idea. I mean, I can, obviously as a DM it can be abused, and it shouldn't be, but giving creatures AoE options that normally might not have them, that's pretty good. Even if it just lights an area on fire for like, a couple of turns and they don't want to stay there. But yeah,
I think that's a better approach.
That's fine.
You want to say like, you can't hide there anymore. It's like, why? It's because the enemy knows those 3 squares might contain a rogue in the next turn or two.
Right.
Just make it on fire.
Yeah. It's like so much more reasonable.
You're not going to get pushbacks. You're like, I'm not going to get burned by that. You are. It's on fire.
Yeah. No, that's actually, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to make a Molotov cocktail factory now in the game that you guys have to put a stop to.
It's fine. Why would you need a factory?
Well, okay, not like a literal factory, but an operation. Anyways, let's get back to the Artificer Rogue here. So we've talked a lot about the Battlesmith. One other idea that I kind of liked was an ambusher type, and this would be the assassin and the artillerist. I don't think there's as much synergy here as with the Battlesmith and every other rogue, but it still is a cool class idea where the entire point would be just like getting the drop on your enemies, and with the Eldritch Cannon being able to be set up 120 feet away, you can just like get into the most advantageous position with it and just pick off from afar while your party either gets up close or maybe you're up there before everybody else and cause a distraction before people move in. It definitely gives an ambusher feel, though.
Yeah, but I don't know. I know the assassin's kind of like a favorite rogue subclass, and I think it falls really short because I think it's so incredibly rare and situational where it like really shines and comes up. And that is when you get surprised on the enemy and get sneak attack. So your sneak attack crits. And like the Eldritch Cannon will not trigger sneak attack. I think it will crit because it's still technically you making the attack. Right? Yeah, you make a ranged spell attack originating from the cannon, and assassinate is you have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn in combat. In addition, any hit you score against a creature that is surprised is a critical hit. So I don't know if it's obviously not worded with like a cannon in mind, but I think it would still apply. But I mean that's pretty rare to be able to get that sort of setup.
I think it depends on the campaign, as usual. I mean, with the campaign that we're playing right now, I could see plenty of times where that would come up, or you would set up.
I was thinking
an ambush.
about that. I was thinking I've always been disappointed, like Kevin, in the assassin, and it just no campaign we ever did really came up. This one, I'm like, being an assassin would be badass right now.
Yeah.
I think we've tried
to stole my rogue class
3 or 4 times in this campaign to get the drop and trying to fish for surprise rounds, and it hasn't worked yet. We have yet to have a surprise round.
You guys have been close. You've had one. You've had at least one, but there was a time recently that I think you all were close, but I guess not on purpose, you alerted the enemies that there was something odd going on, where you like put some orc bodies in the middle of the road, and it was just enough to be like, okay, something seems odd here. No. They rolled really high.
They were orc bodies that I used my Hexblade or Warlock arcane, Mystic Arcanum thing, whatever, to raise them as ghouls and had them lay in the middle of the road to like ambush them when things came close to inspect. but the bodies were fished out of a nearby lake. And then you had the guy from 85 feet away. I measured it. We're in map tools now. I measured it. 85 feet away. Stop and go, wait. Those are on the road, but from 85 feet away, I could tell they were in water. Everybody be on high alert, and it ruined the whole plan.
He didn't say everyone be on high alert. He said you two go up and like check them out because something looks weird. Right,
and then we got close, and I had them attack, and you said, no, okay. You don't get a sneak attack. They were on high alert. I'm calling shenanigans. 85 feet away.
Fine. The only reason why was because he rolled a 25 on his, I think it was perception check. It was like something ridiculously high. I made it a very difficult DC.
Okay.
So
I didn't know
that's why I'm
rolled.
saying you guys were close on that one. It was just like, okay. And maybe I could have still given you the surprise round, but you guys didn't need it.
Yeah, even in that situation, it was just positioning that I was concerned with. We just didn't need surprise that much. Whereas if you are an assassin, I could see that getting into some heated conversations about who is and isn't surprised.
Right.
And I could have seen like doing like a thing where I specifically roll for like each individual person or enemy to see whether or not they're surprised, and I probably would have leaned into that a little bit more. But yeah, I'll say there's opportunities for surprise rounds. Not everyone has been sneaky. Now you guys all are. So I think that might come up more as well.
Yeah, it still just seems really situational to build an entire class around it, to me. Especially then the rest of the abilities, like proficiency with the Skies Kit and Poisoner's Kit and infiltration expertise and being an imposter and things like that. It's clearly the assassin that's built around... Are you laughing because of Among Us?
No, not at all. I'm laughing because I'm imagining the Eldritch Cannon like dressed up in a disguise brought along with the assassin. Yes, this is my butler, my robot butler.
It looks like a spider flamethrower.
They're not like the dress in all black and cover their face and prowl through the nights and slit someone's throat and run away. They are the infiltrate an organization like they belong, separate somebody through wit and guile and social manipulation, and then kill them. And that doesn't work well with a party, like at all. It's almost like designed to be a solo character, but that's obviously not D&D. And then bring a artificer into it, and then you have a steel dog with you, which obviously makes you stand out, or eldritch cannons, which can also make you stand out.
But you don't have to call those out until you want to.
Right, but it's an action to like bring them forth if they're not already out.
Right.
And like I say, you use your surprise round to bring forth your eldritch cannons. Well, then actually you can get your bonus action attack, but
or you use your action to do like the important stuff with that surprise round and get your big surprise off, and then next round, if you feel like it's necessary, then you bring out your cannon.
Right, but then that's just being an assassin. To me, that's like, I wouldn't bring the artificer into it.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. It is situational, I'll give you that. That said, it's an option. And if the campaign makes sense for it, this is something you could do.
Sure.
One thing that I did want to specify is that people should keep this in mind. The Eldritch Cannon would not give you sneak attack. It is not considered a creature like the Battlesmith Steel Defender. So there's no real benefit to keeping them close to the enemy unless you want to blow them up. In which case, definitely do that.
I thought you were saying the Eldritch Cannon's attack won't trigger sneak attack, which is also true, but just having it next to it.
Correct.
You don't need advantage attack.
Yeah, having it next to it.
If another enemy of the target is within 5 feet, if the enemy is incapacitated, you don't have disadvantage. It doesn't say...
Is it considered an enemy?
It doesn't say it needs to be a creature.
I don't know. That's kind of implied. Creature's super, super general. Like, what is an enemy? Like, could a concept be an enemy? Abstract ideas.
The enemy, your target, is grappling with self-doubt and its life's choices. Sneak attack.
Isn't the entropy that surrounds all of us at all times really all of our greatest enemies?
All right, so the Eldritch Cannon is a magical object, not a creature. But it is like, it's not an abstract thing. I mean, here's a physical robot that is clearly trying to shoot you in the face.
Would you consider a grenade an enemy?
That's a good point.
I mean, kind of, but no.
I'd consider it something that the enemy threw at me and is about to explode, but I don't consider the grenade to be the enemy specifically.
I would kind of say that like a grenade sitting there is enough of a threat in general to trigger the requirements for a sneak attack.
And that's fair.
In its intention, at least.
Is this something that we got an official ruling on? Should we look this up?
I'm looking real quick.
Jeremy, are grenades enemies?
There's like an RPG chat stack exchange discussion, and they're saying no, it doesn't count because it's not a creature. I don't know. Yeah, it probably wouldn't count.
Okay. Well, we might need an official ruling on that. Dear listeners, if you have an official ruling that you've seen, please let us know.
Yeah. Like if something that was next to like ballista, or like obviously that's not going to trigger sneak attack because it's just like it's an object sitting there doing nothing, or like a trebuchet or catapult, and they're kind of in the same vein. But that just kind of has a difference of being autonomous and actually being able to move and shoot without somebody there doing it.
Yeah, it presents an independent threat like a grenade would.
It doesn't though, because it needs to be commanded.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like, it's somewhat different. It's the difference between this thing actively, because the whole point of you getting sneak attack from a creature being right there is it is actively engaged with it. It's like if the creature or the Eldritch Cannon like scampered on up next to them and then just kind of went into shutdown mode. And until you see it pop up again, which always happens when, the rogue artificer makes their move, I don't think it's like an active threat until it becomes one.
Yeah, like
and
you could just walk away from it and not have to worry about opportunity attacks or disengaging. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it would trigger sneak attack.
Yeah, raw, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Not that you'd want to either. It's not a particularly effective way to do that.
No, not
they're
really.
They're slow as shit and they're extremely fragile.
Yeah, I say having like the homunculus through your invocations would probably be a much better bet for it, because you could move it without commanding your bonus action and just position it. And it's like, that's what arcane tricksters do with taking Find Familiar anyways. And the homunculus is just like a beefier version of a Find Familiar. So that's probably a better way to go about it than you trying to rely on these cannons.
Definitely. So I don't think we've talked much about like what balance we'd put to this, like how many levels into Rogue versus how many in Artificer. I mean, do we have a strong opinion? I feel like you could really go either direction.
Yeah, if you went Battlesmith, I think whatever combination you want, it's sort of whatever you feel like, because the Battlesmith, you keep getting better stuff. Extra attack at 5th level, Arcane Jolt at 9th to do an extra 2d6 force damage, improved Defender. So like your Arcane Jolt increases, your Steel Defender does get its bonus to AC then, by the way. And that's at 15th. It's really high, but it'll just help you. And then as you go higher and higher in Rogue, you get better sneak attacks, you get more expertise options, eventually you get reliable talents, evasion. It's hard to like say any of these are better than others. It just depends on your campaign and the character you want to play.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to say that both are... You're losing in both cases. There's no obvious dip here.
Yeah, it's trade-offs.
You're making sacrifices. Yeah. I don't know if losing is the right term there, because there's a reason why you're going into the other one. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm with you. I think for the Battlesmith especially, that's just like choose what limit you want to go to and, how high the campaign's going to go and make some synergy out of it.
Right.
I think realistically, you're going to see a lot of people avoiding 9th level Rogue just because that subclass is usually not that great, even though it does up your sneak attack to 5d6 from 4d6.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of trade-offs.
Yeah. Yeah. Artillerist, I think, stopping before 5th. Because once you get 5th level, that's where you get a bonus to like cantrip attacks and stuff through your wand. Yeah, you roll an extra d8 for like spells damage rolls, which don't trigger sneak attack, and there goes the entire like main reason for being a rogue. of getting sneak attack. Though if you do want to suck up the dead level, once you get to 9th, it does get better. Your cannons damage increases and stuff like that. But that's like a big jump, 4 extra levels.
The one thing to remember at least is it's not like an entirely dead level at 5th. You do get 2nd level spells.
That's true. Yeah, you still get your core stuff. Your spell casting is going to go up along the way. I don't think it happens at 5th, but as you keep leveling, you'll get more infusions, things like that.
Right.
Flash of Genius at 7th level is really great, especially if you're Battlesmith, because that's the one that allows you to, as a reaction, add your intelligence modifier to ability checks or saving throws within 30 feet of you, up to your intelligence modifier in a day. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah, and I think the increase in infusions and spellcasting makes me really lean towards a deeper dip into Artificer than Rogue, because I feel like even just getting a little bit of sneak attack damage, expertise, and just everything you get in the first 5 levels of Rogue is enough to make a really solid character, and the rest can go into Artificer, and you'll be fine.
Right. Yeah. Rogues do make for really great dips, as long as you are martial focused in some way. Even if you're not, just cutting action for even just a wizard is great. I mean,
yeah.
So cutting action just
to clarify, yes, I may have said evasion at 5th level. I always mix these two up. You get uncanny dodge at 5th level, evasion 7th level.
Right. Yeah, uncanny dodge being the one that has a reaction, you could have damage from a single target source, I think, and then
which is also stupid good.
Yes, it really is. I mean, you're limited by your reaction, so you're not going to opportunity attacks. And rogues being able to take an opportunity attack is awesome, because you could sneak attack twice in a round with that, because it's a sneak attack is limited once per turn. Opportunity attacks are by nature not on your turn, and so that's something you're kind of giving up, but you kind of have to fish for them. It's very situational anyways. And then evasion is the one where even if you fail a dex saving throw, you still just take half damage as if you passed. And if you pass it, you take no damage, which is also awesome.
Yep.
And combines super well with uncanny dodge, because it's just like everything is now, you can just avoid it.
So uncanny dodge, yes, you're right. It combines well with it, just like as a class in general. One thing that I always see or hear people mess up is if you fail the dexterity saving throw and you have evasion, you have it. You can't use uncanny dodge against a dexterity saving throw.
Right.
It's an attack against you.
Yeah.
So just to say, they don't specifically work together. But as a class, yes, you're just avoiding damage and dealing tons of damage.
Yep.
Stupid rogues.
Back on the bonus action mode stuff, we hinted at it a little bit, but the Artillerist is really where that's going to come in. I don't think we dove into why that is such an issue. Being with the Artillerist, you make your Eldritch Cannons, which you then command with a bonus action. And it's like your Force Ballast does 2d8 damage from 120 feet away, which is really a great thing to do every round, but it takes your bonus action. That's where you're really going to start going to see cunning action just kind of being wasted, because it's really going to be hard to pick to dash, disengage, or hide as a bonus action instead of doing an additional 2d8 damage in a round. Or flamethrower, or the protector of doing the 1d8 plus your intelligence in 10 hit points in a round.
Right. One thing to remember for the Artillerist is that you don't officially need to have your cannon up every single combat. Mm-hmm. There is the possibility that you just don't bring it out, in which case, yeah, I guess you can rely on your rogue thing, but that's a matter of being okay in every situation, not the classes actually making each other better.
Right. Yeah, just kind of the versatility. That's in the line of saying, oh, well, if you go monk, it's like, yeah, you're not going to be using its unarmed defense and unarmed attacks at all with this multiclass. But if you get in a crazy situation where you lose all your equipment, you're going to do okay.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I guess so. I want to build a character around that.
Yeah. All right, so I have another character. So I just finished up reading The Martian, which I'm sure everybody has seen that movie by now. If not, you should. It's really good. About
with
a guy
Matt
who
Damon?
gets stuck with Matt Damon. So about a guy who gets stuck on Mars. And just keeping that in mind, this to me makes for a really good survivalist character, as the rogue gets expertise, the artificer gets the ability to like make tools in any situation, and to me those just kind of combine to make a Mark Watney type character. The botanist who's also a mechanical engineer and for whatever reason needs to survive against all odds. Now that's pretty darn specific for a D&D campaign, but there is still that like just that mentality as a character where somebody is just trying to have a tool for any and all situations that come up. And I think Rogue, and I am saying this mostly just bring it into the conversation, but Alchemist does also have that feeling to it.
Oh, okay, I was wondering why you were trying to make a Matt Damon Alone on Mars character. And it's
my true intentions have been revealed.
Here. I was hoping that we'd get through the entire section without even saying the word.
No, I think it's important because it does, at least from a flavor perspective, fill a niche that could be fun to play. And just having that access to, again, miscellaneous tools for whatever scenario, I think is very fitting for the alchemist because, hey, maybe we need to fly in whatever this puzzle is. Well, here we go.
There was a spell I could consistently cast. What would it be called, Jared?
No, the alchemist could recreate that with a first level spell slot instead of a third.
Thank you.
And they don't have to like pick the spell. I mean, there's an opportunity cost of doing that. But it's still kind of underwhelming.
It's not great, but then you also don't have to really worry so much about your bonus actions because the alchemist doesn't have any bonus action suck, I guess.
Right.
So you could very easily do just like a 3-level dip into Artificer, and I think it actually works pretty well with the Rogue because again, you're going to get medium armor, you're going to get infusions, which potentially gives you +1 weapon or whatever else. Infusions are good by default. And then you get their magical potions, which can potentially be useful. I don't think it's the... Will, just come on. Turn off your camera.
I've gotten so sour on this class, man. I know. Just you saying is like, oh, there's no bonus action interference. That's because there's nothing there. There's just like, oh, you don't have to worry about doing something useful. You can just not do that.
In a non-combat heavy campaign, it's like I could see it as just kind of like your bag of tricks. You're just kind of the
regardless of the non-combat heavy campaign. If you're like 5 in Rogue, or like 5 or 6 in Rogue, and 3 in the Artificer, I think you're still going to have a lot of usefulness in and out of combat. You don't have to be the anchor in combat every single time.
Right.
You have 3, 4, 6 other party members who can carry that helm. If you want to be the character who has the right tool for the job, oh, do I have the class for you? You can make whatever tool you want.
If you've got 6 party members who are all properly built, you can take the day off as an alchemist.
I stand by that. I think that there seriously is something to just, again, the fun aspect of it, kind of that crazy scientist who always has a solution for every problem. I like that.
We come back to that every time we talk about the Artificer. We love the flavor of the Alchemist, and if because it does fill a unique role in fantasy, and if like that's what you want to play, it's like here's an Alchemist, but it's like really only if you really, really, really like that role play, and that's
oh, it makes me so mad.
It's so close.
It makes me want to bring back the UA that we had at our table, whose like entire thing was like, yeah, they get potions that are better than cantrips that they just like
they're like lobbing bombs. Yeah,
like,
that was
I want that
terrible
back.
Character.
It was so bad. It was way broken. It had that stupid companion, that the chubby unicorn that was never useful and had to be left behind most of the time.
God, whoever wrote that was just on seriously hard drugs, and in their come down, they fucked this class in particular as an apology. Every turn, it's like, oh, you can throw a very dangerous scaling bomb made out of fire or acid. Pick. It doesn't matter.
Does like 5d8 in like a 10-foot area.
Right?
And it didn't make sense. It's like you reach into your bag and pull out bombs out of nowhere.
Yeah, you didn't have to have them prepared. There was no limit. It was essentially your cantrips. It's just an endless bag of bombs.
Yeah, so bring that back, but like not stupid.
So this multi-class got so close to really giving a big boost to the alchemist and fell short with the thief. Thief have fast hands where as part of the cunning action, so using a bonus action, they could use the object interaction as a bonus action. And initially you would be completely forgiven to thinking that you could then as a bonus action drink a potion, which would definitely add some boosts to some of this because this is all actions to drink. So then heal as a bonus action, give yourself boldness as a bonus action, things like that. But it's not the case. The use object interaction is specifically mundane objects. Magic items are, to put it in the official Jeremy Crawford tweet, their own thing. Very technical terminology there, but they don't count as use an object. And so even within like the basic rules and the DMG and the magic item section, it calls out specifically that the thieves' fast hands ability, it does not allow them to use magic items for a bonus action. It trumps that.
Right.
So it doesn't work.
And even to get more specific, just in the experimental elixir, it specifically says, as an action, a creature can drink the elixir.
Right.
So it doesn't say, they
went out of their way to make sure this wasn't good.
Right. Now, what I'm saying right now, and you guys can hold me to this if you ever want to play an alchemist, rogue, I'm throwing that away. Just crumpling that up. If you want to play a thief alchemist who can take their potions as a bonus action, please, let's make that a worthwhile class to play.
I thought you were just going to say, like, oh, it's free. You can drink and administer.
You can just drink it for free, yeah.
Free.
It doesn't even cost a spell slot, to make more of them. You just
Unlimited.
get them every round.
You get a bag full of them. Free action. You can drink 9 of them in a turn. Still not.
And if it ever does come up, we can discuss that more and figure out if that's actually a problem. But, man, I think it just makes it better and more on par with these other ones.
Yeah, even then it's still questionable, but it's definitely a lot better to be able to do it as a bonus action. Though Thief isn't that great. At 3rd level, you get fast hands where you get, as a bonus action, use an object or do sleight of hands or thieves' tools, which is pretty situational. Like need to do sleight of hand or your thieves' tools as a bonus action.
Yeah, I forget. I feel like I've seen sleight of hand possible to be used in combat, but I forget. It's just taking something off of their person. Maybe that's something you could throw in as a DM if you're like, oh yeah, they have a healing potion on their belt. Try and make a sleight of hand check to take it
as a bonus action, right?
Right. I mean, I guess that's...
Yeah, but you could also probably then get there through Arcane Trickster, the Mage Hand Ledger Domain, where it's saying you could use it to stow and steal objects, and you could command it as bonus action anyways, and then you could do it from 30 feet away. And you're also then not a thief.
It's... imagine you're fighting a prison guard, and rather than fighting him, you just steal the key and unlock it in 2 turns using bonus actions. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think it would be more the DM needs to create situations. There's plenty of times where we want to interact with the environment during combat. We need to jam a door closed to keep more people from flooding in, or pull a series of levers to close a gate. It's just, this stuff happens. And it's usually said, okay, that's going to be an action for you to do that. If you're a thief, say, all right, you can do it as a bonus action. You just need to create situations like that, I guess. And then to get second story work, you could climb at normal speed, and you can make running long jumps further. I mean, it's just... And then
the climb speed is actually, I'll say it's surprisingly useful.
They don't get a climb
actually
speed. They still need a roll for climbing. It just doesn't count as difficult terrain.
Oh, right.
That's it. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, climb faster than normal and no longer costs you extra movement. Then all the way 9th level, it's decent Supreme Sneak. If you only move half your speed on same turn, you get advantage on stealth checks. Which is okay.
See, this is a time where normally the 9th level ability for Rogue, I'm just like, yeah, just forget that. We could just skip that and not even care. This one, you can tell it's trying to make up for the kind of weaker 3rd level ability.
Right.
By 9th level, you've got like plus 15 to sneak.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you probably take an expertise in that, and yeah.
Advantage is advantage, man.
Yeah.
And then it just gets worse.
All right. Do we have anything else around this multi-class?
I don't think so. I don't.
Oh, you know what? There was one other thing, and it was still just around the thief, actually. And that was their just clarifying that the spell storing item falls in that fast hands issue as well. Like, I think I had somebody ask me specifically, like, can you use fast hands on the spell storing item? No, for the exact reason that you can't use the potions. It's a whole action to use the spell storing item.
Right, yeah. It's not an object interaction.
Yep.
Yeah, the fast hands object interaction really only comes up for like the mundane items listed in like the adventuring gear of the player handbook. Like you could dump a bag of caltrops as a bonus action instead of an action, things like that. Just, yeah. Like I said, it needs to be situations created for it within interacting with the environment.
You put some sad trumpet noises in. It's like, wah, wah. I used to be a trombone. Sad trombone noises.
Yeah. Though, if there are people who have made great use of that, we'd love to hear about it. So let us know on Twitter or Reddit when we post this. Because, we definitely do miss those sometimes, obviously. Getting real creative.
And I think that's one where in play, you would have like the times where it does come up that it becomes very memorable. So I would definitely like to hear about those. Yeah, that's it. I'm interested to see how Armorer will play with this when that comes out.
Yeah.
I have a prediction. Not great.
I would assume so too, because it's like it gives you heavy armor, which
Power
as a rogue
armor.
you just you just generally want to avoid.
Although that is kind of like that's never a Fallout character that works. I'm gonna wear full power armor and be a sneak sniper.
Sneak. I don't know. Once you get like high up there, they have like the ones that turn you invisible and stuff. And
yeah, once you break the game, it's over anyways, man.
Right. So like 15 hours in Fallout.
4.5 if you play it right.
Oh, and one more quick thing. The Homunculus Servant infusion, we kind of briefly talked about it, where like if you wanted like 7 different companions, but if you did not go Battlesmith, and so you didn't have your Steel Defender there to control and serve this role. If you went Artillerist, taking the Homunculus Servant infusion would be very beneficial as a rogue. Like I was saying earlier, the Arcane Trickster taking Find Familiar to give themselves sneak attack is really, really useful, and those are things that are super fragile. They have 1 HP, that's it. Taking Homunculus Servant, who actually has some hit points and some additional things it could do, and will also trigger your sneak attack because it is a creature, is very beneficial.
Yep. I'm trying to see, are there any other useful infusions? I guess just in general.
Yeah, like giving yourself magical weapons or enhanced defense. Yeah, survey.
Gloves of Thievery. Once again, if you just want to make sure you never fail a sleight of hand check.
Right. Yeah, the repeating
+5.
shot. And then replicating various magic items.
Funny enough, though, the repeating shot only becomes useful if you go Battlesmith.
Yeah, it gets rid of the loading property, right?
Right.
Yeah. It makes it
so like
+1.
that only comes up if you're making 2 shots in a turn.
Right. Do rogues get heavy crossbows?
I don't think so.
Nope. Simple weapons, hand crossbows, long swords, rapiers, short swords. Never mind.
Right, but artificers do.
Artificers do, right?
Because they get proficiency with martial weapons if they go Battlesmith, once again.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know if that was actually mentioned, but that's definitely useful to keep in mind, is that Battlesmith opens up your options for weapons.
Right. Such as a longbow or heavy crossbow, and then make it repeating.
Right. Cool.
Yeah, I got nothing else. I'm going to move on. Duergar.
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 Yeah, I don't know why. That one just won't stick in my brain.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
The next 10 minutes, we're just going to say Duergar until it no longer feels like a word. But you listeners don't have to listen to that. You just get to listen to me talk about our promotional minute. Woo! So if you are not yet, make sure you subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review. 5-star ones only, unless you have useful feedback, in which case I do accept 4-star reviews. But if you make a 4-star review without a comment, I'm going to be really upset because you obviously have an opinion. Come and share it. It's really hostile.
I don't think we can just
Please leave it. No, you have to leave
5-star reviews. No, we'll leave it
yes,
in.
You can. What are you talking about? Everyone does that. We're the only podcast that doesn't ask for 5-star reviews.
I hate it.
Fine. Leave us a honest review.
There you go.
And then if you want to support the show, you can go to monstersandmulticlass.com/support. Where there you can find our Dice affiliate, you can find our Patreon, as well as our merch on Redbubble. Follow us on Twitter. That's at monsters_multi, and subscribe to our subreddit, our Monsters and Multiclass. There you can discuss the episodes, give us suggestions, ask us questions, talk with other like-minded people who enjoy discussing multi-classes and or monsters. And I think that is it for today. We made it through it. Good job, guys. Let's move on to our monster of the week, the Duergars.
For this episode's monster, we're taking a look at the Duergar, part 1, because there's a shit ton of them. So the Duergar were originally their own dwarf clan named the Duergar. They became extremely greedy, abandoning all other aspects of dwarven life, even worshipping their gods, to delve deeper and deeper into the Underdark, positive they were going to find some great treasure to elevate their clan. Well, it turns out they were just being corrupted by mind flayers who sent out a psychic lure to make them act this way. And they dug so hard and so deep to the point where anyone that was weak just died. And it was the mind flayers' way of weeding out any weakness in them. Once they dug down to the Elderbrain colony, they got corrupted and enslaved for generations and generations and generations under terrible physical torment. They were experimented on, and these eons of this treatment corrupted them into what we know now as the Duergar, gray-skinned dwarves who basically have no happiness or empathy or compassion for anything. All they want is to get as rich as possible, hold as much power over others, and will do it at any means necessary. They're basically in an eternal war with dwarves. And there's tons of info here in Mordenkainen's and a bit in the Monster Manual of a bunch of stat blocks, and you can really build an entire campaign and societies around them. So a lot of really cool stuff here.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on with the Duergar. And just like, this was really my first time diving into the lore of them. We fought a good amount in Out of the Abyss, and I've used them before in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, though I think that was a classic example of even Wizards of the Coast kind of ignoring their own lore, because they were just like, oh, here's some generic henchmen, they're Duergar, who cares? They're neat just because they're so sad. They're like the saddest dwarves possible. One thing that I found really interesting is in like the earlier parts discussing them, it specifically states their period of enslavement and the revolt against the mind flayers led by their god Ladugur. I haven't had to pronounce that one out loud. The purged the influence of the other dwarven gods from their souls and thus made them into the superior race. And I thought that was interesting because it specifically, like, just from a lore perspective, calls them the superior race to the dwarves.
That's their mindset.
And that's, as I read more, I think that's what it was trying to get across, is that, like, they view themselves as, like, these tortured souls, and because of it, they have earned these extra powers, and that makes them above dwarves and really all societies in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they see themselves as the top, kind of classic evil race stuff.
Right. But I thought it was neat just that they really have like so many things that seem to be the antithesis of dwarves just for the sake of being the opposite, where they don't care about like beauty or the craft of anything. They just want to create, and they create because they need to have more. They live by their 3 rules, which are our pockets are never full, our fight is never done, and our resolve is never shaken. So as they're creating things, they're like, we need more tools because you can never have enough tools. And who cares if they look good? Who cares if they do anything more than the thing that they are created for?
It's actually a very interesting take on it. They are a direct and very cruel inversion of the dwarven archetype. It's essentially everything dwarves are, but deprived of any virtue or value.
Right. So it even says like their culture is hollow because they're not doing things out of like any joy. It's just like a pure, logical, still corrupted march forward.
It's also kind of sad because, like we mentioned, they were enslaved for by the Mind Flayers and fucked with for generations and generations. This guy finally musters the strength of the Duergar clan and comes back to the surface. It's like everything's different, and the dwarves are like, "Yeah, you guys, it was kind of your bad. You're not really welcome here anymore." And they're like, "What?"
Yeah, it was really kind of a dick move of the dwarves because like the Duergar clan specifically the Mind Flayers like hatched this scheme and sent out psychic energy to corrupt them and lure them into this trap for this to happen. And when they finally get out, and the rest of the dwarves like, nah, that only happened because like you weren't super cool on Morden and you let them corrupt you and you let the temples go empty and that's not cool. So no. This enslavement and torture. It was your fault. Which is terrible.
It reminds me of Castaway.
What?
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember Castaway. How does it remind you of Castaway?
He was on the island, and he like totally changed, and then he came back, and his wife's like, I mean, I wasn't going to it was like 3 years, dude.
Oh, how she remarried.
We all kind of moved on.
Gotcha.
And then he started an evil shipping company.
I don't remember that part.
Are you like connecting that with like Captain Sully? Is that the unofficial Tom Hanks trilogy?
The lore, yes, the evil.
Official Tom Hanks.
Also, he wasn't evil in that, but
it starts with Forrest Gump, and then it goes into Castaway, and then ends with Captain Sully.
Or was Captain Sully the plain one? I don't remember.
I don't know either.
I didn't say that one.
That might have been the plain one. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The Duergar, though, they also do have like just really cool stat blocks. They have really neat abilities. It doesn't go into too much. There's just a couple lines explaining how they live in the Underdark. Because all those generations being in the dark has made them really sensitive to sunlight. And so they have sunlight sensitivity where they have disadvantage on attack rolls and perception checks and stuff well in sunlight. And the Underdark is full of crazy fey magic and just kind of like this innately magical area of the material plane. And dwarves being kind of the way they are, they've naturally absorbed that and have gained all these additional magical powers that dwarves don't have. And I think that is reflected really well in just their base stat block in the monster manual, because they have some cool abilities that just seem almost out of nowhere for like dwarves with enlarge and invisibility.
I will say, just to hold up, where I believe that those powers are not from the Underdark. It's specifically from their time with the Mind Flayers. The Mind Flayers
their magic is psionic.
Right, they've been imbued with psionic energy. So it's not normal magic by any means. It is specifically the psionic magic.
It kind of contradicts itself. So that, like in the monster manual, which is not where they have their detailed chapter in Mordenkainen, this is the Born to Darkness lore. The Underdark is saturated with strange magical power, which the Duergar absorbed over generations of imprisonment. And because of this, it can increase its size and strength or become invisible and blah, blah, blah.
And then they directly contradict that.
Yeah, you're right. So Mordenkainen definitely contradicts that, as there's like the little cursive text from Mordenkainen himself saying, the mental power that the Duergars wield was given to them by the Illithids, no matter what the adherents of Deep Dura might claim. Why would the Illithids create the slaves that could turn invisible or grow to ogre size? Most likely because those slaves would excel at hurting their master's other chattel. Going on for a little bit longer, but long story short, it seems to be at least specifically stated in this that it is from the Mind Flayers.
Okay.
And as the other stat blocks, I think, go on to explain a bit more in Mordenkainen's, it does seem to be that they're expanding upon the psionic abilities. None of them are specifically like in tune with spell casting. They get more in tune with their own form of magic.
Right, they do kind of what they can to increase it and also bring full technology into it with some like really terrible things, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But let's just start with the base Duergar stat block here in the monster manual. It's a challenge rating 1. And it's usually challenge rating 1 creatures aren't that interesting, but I do like that they kind of gave them just a couple cool things to make them set apart. It's a medium humanoid, 16 armor class, 26 hit points. It's high status strength at 14. Nothing crazy there. Just like any dwarf, it has resistance to poison. It has dark vision to 120 feet, so kind of an enhanced dark vision. It does have Durgar Resilience, where it has advantage on saving throws against poison spells and illusions, as well to resist being charmed or paralyzed. And then the sunlight.
I feel like before we even go forward, that's like really big for a challenge rating 1 creature. Mm-hmm. That's basically magic resistance plus.
Well, not really.
Why do you say that? It has advantage on saving throws against poison, spells, illusions, and it resists being charmed and paralyzed. That covers just about everything when it comes to spells, and also
Magical
gives some
effects.
Non-spell ways. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
No,
But they don't
is a
resist
really
the
awesome
damage
ability.
is the important thing.
You are correct.
Yeah.
They don't resist the
Yeah.
damage. But I don't think magic resilience does give
No,
resistance
not
to
for
damage.
most things.
No, it's just advantage on the saving throw. Mm-hmm. And then the sunlight sensitivity, which I mentioned earlier, disadvantage on attack rolls as well as perception checks that rely on sight well in sunlight. So these all things are very much, you're going to encounter them in the Underdark. They don't really like to leave.
Or at night, if they're
Yeah.
doing like a surface raid.
Right.
And I think that's perfectly within the realm of possibility.
Right. And then for its action, so its first one is where things get really cool. It has enlarge, recharges after short or long rest. And so it is a whole action, but it could do this beforehand. For a minute, it magically increases in size along with anything it is wearing or carrying. Well, it is enlarged. It's the Duergar is considered large. Doubles its damage dice for strength-based attacks and makes strength checks and saving throws at advantage. So kind of just a cool thing, just make them bigger, powerful things. Not again, something that you would not expect out of a challenge rating 1.
No, not at all. And the damage it brings from that, I don't think you'd expect from a challenge rating 1 either.
Right.
Its plus to hit isn't that crazy with its war pick being its next action. Plus 4, 1d8 plus 2 piercing damage when it's normal size, but when it goes up to large, it's 2d8 plus 2. That's pretty substantial.
Right. Yeah, and it also has the javelin, same sort of stuff except for with 30, 120 foot range, and it's a d6 instead of a d8. And then finally, invisibility, also a short and long rest recharge. It magically turns invisible until it casts a spell. Until it attacks, casts a spell, or uses its enlarge, or until its concentration is broken for up to 1 hour.
Yeah, and so I've used Duergar a lot of times in combat, just from like a straight stat block perspective, and I've always found the invisibility not so much lacking, I'm just not sure when the best time to use it is.
Out of combat. Out of the Abyss, if you remember, had a lot of use out of this. I guess this is going to be vaguely spoilery because like you go to the Durgar capital. I'm drawing a complete blank on its name. In the Underdark. You guys spent a lot of time there. That's where you met Shimmer.
All of the names in the Underdark were word soup.
Yeah,
so
that's where you met Thembershad and
okay.
all that. Or maybe not. Anyways, you definitely go. Yeah. Anyway, so while you're like going around that city, it's a Duergar ran city, and you being there is like really iffy to begin with because they just like to enslave other races. And so you have to kind of really be on best behavior, and it's basically just an assumed thing. All the packs of guards are just roaming around invisible. You at any point in time, cat knocking around my webcam. Thanks, Mr. Ruining my speech. Yeah, at any point in time, there could be a whole bunch of them around you. You have no idea. Also, at other points when you're kind of more dungeon type stuff, and again, out of the Abyss, there's like a Duergar within this cave system, and you're trying to get through it, and you look ahead, and you look in a room, there's like 2 of them. It's like, oh, okay, we could handle this fight, and you rush in, and then 6 more pop out of invisibility, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So there's definitely a lot of ways. I think it answers the question of it's used before combat usually. Something that they are doing to set up or get the upper hand in the fight. Less so than in the middle of combat going invisible so that they can do something else.
Right. Yeah, or if you want them to run away.
Right, and that was another thing that I was kind of looking into is how inclined do Duergar seem to run away? Because to me, they very much have this like fight to the death, we're going to protect what we have type deal, but they also have a very collective mentality where what benefits the society is more important than the individual. So
I see a pragmatism that kind of contradicts that in a way. Like their rule with our fight is never done is it's not on an individual basis. It's just kind of like a mentality you live with day by day. So I can see them running away, but I think it's kind of middle of the road.
Yeah, I think what I would see is if you were in a scenario where you're going to have them running away, is you'd have like one or two basically sacrificing themselves, sticking behind, doing everything that they can to keep the party locked down while the rest get to run away. And they would be the type who are quick to do that early on. Like if it seems like the fight is not going in their direction, they're going to try and have as many survive as possible.
Right. By the way, Gracklestug.
That's it. Gracklestug.
Oh, it was Grackle. That's where they all had like the super weird laws and everything, and
yeah,
that was like a horrible time for everyone. Yeah, okay, yeah. I remember Gracklestug. All right, so that's the base Duergar. Yeah. I think it's really neat for a CR1, as you said, and not just interesting. It's pretty deadly for a CR1. I mean, that's like there's a lot going on here that if this was actually against a lower level party, I could see them getting overwhelmed.
Definitely. Yeah, like I said, there's just enough interesting things there to really change it up. And it could kind of be your first, for like a lower level party, sort of the first introduction of something different. Up until that point, maybe they were attacking just goblins and kind of really straightforward things, wolves. And now all of a sudden here's a Duergar clan and like, whoa, tactics, different stuff. And then we'll jump over to Mordenkainen's, and the stat blocks in there are just awesome. I mean, it's awesome. It's an overused word, but they are just fantastic.
Definitely. This is like easily hits into some of my favorite stat blocks for like a collective group of enemies. And the fact that there's 9 of them is pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. We're only going through 4 more today, but I was just consistently blown away. Each one feels unique and just powerful in their own right, regardless of the challenge rating associated with them. That said, the first one we're going to look at is challenge rating 12.
Right. Yep. This is the big one. The Durgar Despot. Challenge rating 12, 119 hit points, 21 AC. Strength of 20, con of 19, intelligence of 15, wisdom of 14, charisma of 13. Dex only 5 though, but really great stats to start. They're basically a Duergar who puts themselves into a machine. They're like a mech.
Yep. Basically. They're a Duergar mech controlling their mechanical parts through their psionic connection, and that is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, saving throw is a +8 con and 6 wisdom, and so those are 2 obviously very common ones. Damage immunities to poison and conditions of charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, or poisoned. Dark vision out to 20 feet, which is a lot of typical Duergar stuff. It has the innate spell casting, which is psionics. Its spell save DC is only 12, so it's pretty low, but it can at-will mage hand or minor illusion. More kind of out of combat stuff, but pretty flavorful. And then once a day, each do a counterspell, Misting Step, and Stinking Cloud. So I guess really the save DC is only going to come up for Stinking Cloud. But right. Counterspell and Misty Step, great. Always going to get use out of those.
Kill a 3rd level spell, Misty Step, again, just always useful.
Yep. And then this has magic resistance, where it's advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects.
Yeah, and you'll notice that it just switched over to having the other stuff as condition immunities. They cannot be charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, or poisoned. So that's like taken care of separately. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. It has psychic energy as another kind of just passive feature. When Engine. Thank you. I don't know why. Psychic engine. It suffers a critical hit or is reduced to 0. Psychic energy erupts from its frame to deal 46 psychic damage to each creature within 5 feet. This kind of makes it scary to crit it. And then sunlight sensitivity, same as all the rest. Then its actions are just fun. Like, these are great. So it has a multi-attack. It can make 2 Iron Fist and 2 Stomping Foot attacks, or it can replace up to 4 of these with the use of its Flame Jets. And if you're not excited about a creature having Flame Jet, I don't know why you're playing D&D. So it's Iron.
If you're not excited about it, you're probably a PC, is why.
So its Iron Fist is +9 to hit, It's reaching 5 feet. If it hits, it does 2d8 plus 5 bludgeoning damage. And if it's then the target makes a DC 17 strength saving throw, or be thrown up to 30 feet away in a straight line, it lands prone and then takes 3d6 bludgeoning damage. Which you can then follow up with the Stomping Foot, which is +9 to hit, and it takes 1d8 plus 5 bludgeoning damage, or 3d8 plus 5 if it's prone. So you can use the Iron Fist to launch something prone, run up to it, and stomp on it.
Or Misty Step up to it, which is just cooler.
Actually, you would probably need to because the speed is only 25 feet. And
it depends.
It launches them 30 feet, so but they hit a wall or something.
Yeah. Yep. Or another player, which is always good too.
Right.
Because I think that would do damage to both of them in that case.
Typically. It doesn't say it, but yeah, typically, yeah.
Yeah, it would be the normal, like, if it moved 10 feet, they take 1d6, 20,
right.
2d6.
Right. And then it's Flame Jet. It spews flames in a line 100 feet long and 5 feet wide, which is just like an insane AoE for just an action. It could do this 4 times in a turn if it wants, just with no resources. 100 feet long, 5 feet wide. Each creature in the line must make a DC 16 dex saving throw or take 48 fire damage on a failed, half as much on a success. 4 times a turn.
Yep. So it could just go and just punch 2 people down to the ground and then just shoot them with flame jets, because once they're prone, they have disadvantage on the dexterity saving throws.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Yeah, knock them 30 feet away and then reposition in a line, and it...
Yep. Boom, 48 damage.
Yeah, line spells at 100 feet are basically just weird range spells, so...
Right. Yeah, it's a range spell that can hit more than one thing.
This is bizarrely effective at keeping melee characters in a bad position.
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, prone does not give you disadvantage on dex saves.
What?
You might be thinking of restrained or grappled or something.
A lot of things actually do, but...
Yeah.
Huh. No, you're totally right. Okay. That's fine. Still cool.
Yeah.
I would just keep using the flame jets just because they're awesome. But it's exactly like you said, Will. It's ruining a melee character's day, because every time they get close, you just go, nope, get back, punch them 30 feet away, and then this thing doesn't care how far away it is, because if it's 100 feet away, it can still flame jet you and everything in between.
Yeah, 100 feet. That's insane. And lines can go diagonal, so it's really easy to get more than one creature in this.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about tactics of this creature, and I really don't see it using its stomping foot all that often. To me, that almost seems like a coup de grace, as like, kind of dark as that is, where if it sees something low and it like pushes it back, yeah, it might run towards it, or it might misty step, and then use its stomping foot to just get some advantage attacks against it and do that additional 3d8 plus 5 damage. Yeah, that stomping foot is going to do an average of 27 damage if the target is prone. And it can do that...
18.
18. It's not additional.
Oh, sorry. You're right. So 18. Sorry, 18 damage. So it can do 36 if it's doing that twice. And with rolling at advantage, it could very easily crit off of that, which is going to make that much, much scarier. But any other time, I feel like it's better off to stay as far back as it can and just keep using those flame jets.
It really depends. The 17 DC strength that's actually really bad for a lot of people. Anyone who's like a fighter or a paladin or a barbarian, whatever. But that's the rest of the game. They probably did dex instead of strength.
Right.
Like as a monk, I would be a lot more concerned about getting punched and stomped.
Yeah, and as a monk, you'd probably be really concerned with its +8 con, so that your stunning strikes aren't doing anything.
It's not immune to my stuns. Sweet. Entire key pool gone 2 turns later to no avail. Oh. Gee, what a great class. What a fun time. What a blast I'm having.
So in terms of
saves,
using this, with a challenge rating of 12, this is obviously needs to be kind of one of the build up to it. This isn't your run of the mill thing. This is there's going to be like one of these guys in a big fight in your Duergar campaign or adventure. Yeah, maybe 2 of them. Is it the highest challenge rating?
Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah, by a lot.
It was a little weird because there's this flavor block it's just kind of a robotically enhanced Duergar, but they don't explain why.
Yeah, the Warlord's the next closest at 6.
Why does it need to explain why? They've replaced their body parts with mechanical devices that they control through their psionic abilities.
What are the hierarchical implications of being a despot?
It means that you can shoot fire and people have to listen to you. The way I see this being used is, like as standard as possible is if you have a dwarven settlement that gets raided by these Duergar every once in a while. Having this thing come up and just burning down homes and just being an absolute menace is very much so going to be a focal point for the PCs. And they could very much so get their butts kicked before this thing runs away. And it gives them that opportunity, as you said, to provide a build-up to this fight that they have to prepare for and actually be a little bit stronger for as well.
Right.
So that's how I would use it just right out the gate. It is a scary enemy. Just seeing it off in the distance, it's just shooting flames. Every 6 seconds, it's burning down a block of houses.
Right. And yeah, it's double the challenge rating of the next closest. So it's a really big jump. So you definitely got to be careful with it. I could actually see, like if you're doing like a Duergar type campaign or adventure, never actually pulling one of these things out because you're just not going to get high enough.
I don't think I agree, only because the Duergar in numbers can be challenging for a wide array of levels. Yeah. And I think we'll talk about it as we go on, but I would expect them to attack in numbers. So when you get to even these just like challenge rating 2 to like 4 or 5 ones, having those in combination could make for a pretty decent fight even at higher levels.
Yeah, that's true. That's a fair point.
I would say it falls into that like sweet spot of leveling where it's like when you're from levels like 7 to 10, like right around there, like, yeah, you're probably going to get some good use out of the Duergar. If it's lower than that, you could easily destroy your party. If it's higher than that, they're just going to find a way to shut it down.
Right.
Like one AoE attack and everything's just wiped out.
Right. All right, moving on to the Durgar Hammerer. These are digging machines with a Duergar strapped inside of it. It's kind of like the terrible, non-elective version of the Despot. It's typically a punishment for those who work ethic waivers, and it is powered by their pain. So lovely. These are challenge rating 2. Armor class 17, hit points 33. Nothing too crazy to write home about the stats. So it's int, wisdom, and charisma are all 5. So all very low because it's just in chronic pain, basically. Same kind of immunities and stuff like that. Dark vision. It's only 60 feet, not 120. Its first passive feature is the Engine of Pain. Once per turn, a creature that attacks the Hammerer can target the Duergar trapped in it. The attack has disadvantage on the attack roll. On a hit, it deals an extra 1d10 damage, and the Hammerer can respond by using its multi-attack with its reaction. So I don't know if that extra 1d10 damage is worth that.
Probably not. And my question is, why do they have a choice? Why do the PCs get to choose if they attack the Duergar in the suit or attack the suit itself?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I would play it that way, to be completely honest. I would have just like when you attack the Duergar, it's going to impose disadvantage on one of the attacks. If you hit, do that 1d10 extra damage, and then it gets its reaction.
Right.
That just seems like it would play out smoother.
Yeah, or like a roll for it. Like kind of how you handle mirror image.
Sure, I could see that.
If this had a damage resistance or immunity, that would make a lot more sense to me.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Like a threshold.
If you want to bypass the damage resistance, then you got to attack it directly. If you attack it directly, you're opting to get hit more potentially.
Yeah, I like those changes. Yeah, because then it's multi-attack. It makes 2 attacks, one of its claw and one of its hammer. These are nothing too crazy, but its claws +5 to hit, 1d6 +3 bludgeoning. Hammers +5 to hit, 2d6 +3 bludgeoning. So in total, it could be 3d6 plus 6, which is, for challenge rating 2, a decent amount of damage.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I mean, if it's working out the way that it should be working, we're talking about 32 damage if all of those hit in like a full round, because it's basically getting to go twice. At challenge rating 2, 32 damage is nothing to scoff at.
Right.
That's in the realm of putting a character down in a turn.
Yep.
Especially if one of those crits. If that hammer crits of 2d6 plus 3, it gets out of hand pretty quick.
Yeah, this would be then where we were just talking about, where higher level party and just these things with other Duergar in larger numbers.
Right.
I guess it is limited to its reaction, so if you could burn the reaction in some way, then you could safely just beat up on the poor Duergar inside of it.
Yeah, and that one's kind of tough because it's like, for example, if you give it a chance to take an opportunity attack, I can't imagine why it wouldn't, just because it's so dumb that it sees something leaving its reach, it's going to reach out and try and hit them with its hammer. That's it. So, yeah, there could be some good PC tactics there where they intentionally burn the opportunity attack.
Alternatively, just shooting at from range. I mean, can't really take the reaction if you're nowhere near it.
Right, yeah.
True. It can still impose disadvantage on the attack, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about this. What I would actually do to fix this and make it actually make sense is I would give the Duergar inside vulnerability to melee, any damage, really.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's quick and easy. I'm with you there. Again, just give more of a reason to take that risk. And then it does become more of a strategy thing, and you don't have to, like, I'll say fudge it as the DM, where you just say, no, it happens. It happens every time, because that's the whole point. I'm with you, Will. I think that's better. Vulnerability when you choose to attack the thing on the inside. Now, how do you get that across to the players?
Yeah, right.
Because that's something that's
just
really
going to ignore it or exploit it.
Really abstract in terms of D&D creatures. You don't aim. That's not how the game works.
Yeah, because other than basically this, and there's another one later on, it's like D&D 5th edition goes really out of its way to make sure you are well aware you do not do cold shots. There's no benefit of aiming for the head or an eye or attacking their calf or something. It's just there's no
trying
cold
to
shots.
hit the Duergar inside the mining machine.
Yes.
There's none of that. Wait.
Yeah. So I don't know. I always hate when you have to just like bring the meta into it. But like unless you as the DM explain that, like, oh, it almost seems like the Duergar is a separate creature from the machine that hovers around it, and you're like, oh, when you hit the machine, it seems to not do that much damage, but like,
and then the players get all excited, like, oh, I target the Duergar inside, and it's like, oh, great, you hit it. You roll an extra 1d10. I did 1 extra damage. Oh, and it smacks you back for 16.
Oh, that actually feel great. That would feel so good as the DM.
Your players are going to feel kind of cheated.
I know, but the baiting them into it would feel so good. Like, I don't know. I don't know how you do it. You maybe... it's complicated. I think the best way to do it is what you said earlier, Kevin, where you have that blur ability almost, where you like kind of just roll and or mirror image, sorry. Yeah. Where they maybe just by chance, they accidentally hit the Duergar one time, and then you can like tease that out and say, hey, when you hit the Duergar, this happened. Maybe you could specifically try to if you want, or you could stop doing that because it freaks out and starts smashing people.
Yeah.
Totally unrelated to the mechanics, the art of this thing makes me think of the body massage guy in the G.I. Joe PSAs. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, it's like one of my favorite. You know the G.I. Joe PSAs, right? The parodies?
Pork chop sandwiches.
Right. There's one where there's like a downed power line, and the guy comes out and he goes, who wants a body massage? And he's got this long claw thing, and he like picks it up, tosses it aside. Just says body massage the entire time. Anyways, I want a random encounter that's just one of these Durgar Hammerers walking around in the Underdark. Just goes, who wants a body massage? And you just see this
body massage.
Mr. Body Massage Machine, go.
I guess I gotta watch those.
You really do. I'm sorry. I know it's not funny to be like, oh, you're not in on the joke, but everyone should freaking watch the G.I. Joe PSAs.
A lot of important information.
That's where we've done our Tome of Foes thing. That's where always a Tome
That's where we stole Tome of Foes.
We like go on for way too long.
That's just G.I. Joe, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess, but the going on too long is specifically from the G.I. Joe PSAs.
Oh, okay.
You tell me you didn't just watch these over and over again, Kevin? They weren't a major part of your childhood?
Nope.
It came out when I was like 15, dude.
Okay, it was my teenage years, but whatever. One last thing around these is just like how I'd introduce them is they are the miners, and their entire thing is keeping out intruders. So if there is a reason why the party is specifically going to the Duergar strongholds, I think these are like the first things they're going to encounter, as these are kind of the mindless drones sent out to deal with the first wave of whatever comes.
Right. Yeah, or if you wander into a Durgar mine, it's probably going to be full of these things.
Yep, definitely.
A couple taskmasters to contend with too. And
yeah, and I think, again, using the Hammerer and the Despot, like if you had 5 of these Hammerers and then just one of those Despots, that's like a pretty high challenge rating fight.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. All right, moving on to the next one, the Duergar Cavalrachni, which, Will, you had some interesting tidbit about the etymology of this name. Wait, is etymology bugs? Etymology?
Entomology is with bugs, which relates to the etymology of this. Cavalry, Rachni. They ride spiders, bro.
It's a very interesting tidbit. No, that's it. That was it.
Yep. Okay. No,
That's
spelled
it.
cavalry.
It's not a real word.
It's just spider cavalry.
Yeah.
But this goes along with our Steeders that we talked about
back.
last episode. So if you want to know more about the Steeder aspect of this, go listen to that.
But yeah, these they ride Steeders. That's about it.
That's it? Okay.
All right. Challenge rating 2, hit points of 26, AC is 17. Nothing crazy about the stats or resistances. 120 dark vision. Also has sunlight sensitivity. Interesting to note, the Hammerer does not have sunlight sensitivity. That just dawned on me. So I guess these things can go attack in the daylight.
I guess you're right.
I don't know if that would come up a whole lot. But
I feel like there's a lot of typos in that one because it's a construct. I have no idea.
No, I think that's the reason is because it's not the Duergar who's actually controlling it. It's more the suit, and like it's just a mindless husk. So yeah, I think that's on purpose.
Yeah. Anyways, the Cavalrachni has cavalry training. When it hits a target with a melee attack while mounted on a female Steeder, the Steeder can make 1 melee attack against the same target as a reaction, which is scary. Just kind of start piling it on there, especially because usually if you're riding them, they're not getting attacks anyways. They're not getting the full action, so this is a good way to loop it in. It has its resilience where it's same as the base stat block of advantage on saving throws against all that good stuff. Also a sunlight sensitivity. It has a multi-attack. It makes 2 war pick attacks, plus 4 to hit, 1d8 plus 2 piercing damage, plus an additional 2d4 poison damage. It also then has a heavy crossbow, plus 2 to hit, 1d10 piercing.
I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't add the poison damage to the heavy crossbow too.
Yeah, I'd almost just do that.
Yeah, it
like
almost
the bolts
seems
dipped in poison. It's not that crazy.
Right. It's not even a little bit. Seeing as the war pick is, I guess, dipped in poison, the Steeder poison is what I'm assuming they're going for here.
Even though Steers don't have poison.
They do. Their bites are poisonous.
I thought we went through a whole thing of where we wanted to add in stuff.
No. That was the poison condition. They do poison damage.
You're right. Okay. Yeah.
They got sticky legs and bites.
Yep, sticky legs. All right, and then shared invisibility. It's the base Duergar invisibility, but it also makes the Steeder invisible, which is just neat.
Yeah, very, very good at ambushing. And what we talked about with the Steeder was their ability to sticky leg somebody, which is basically just they make a melee attack. If it hits, they're grappled, and then they can just jump 45 feet away. That in combination with having a Durgar rider and invisibility is doing a whole lot for me. That is awesome.
Right. And then, of course, these riders, it doesn't explicitly say it, but you're going to give them special saddles. So they're strapped in so they could ride the steeders up on ceilings and well invisible.
Yeah, and what I was thinking with a more of a Duergar assault, which I think is pretty common for them, of, again, this idea of them doing raids or just like a full-on attack, if that's what's going on, you're going to have a lot of these Cavalrachni, and they're going to jump in, grab key people, jump back out, and now you're surrounded by Duergar, where you're grappled up against this thing, and they're all just beating the crap out of you as you're way far away from the rest of your party.
Right.
So like that strategy of just like get in while invisible, grab somebody, and then bolt out of there is deadly. Very deadly.
Mm-hmm. And also, this did not come up in Out of the Abyss, but if you were ever in Gracklstugh or any Durgar city, those guards that are moving around invisible, they have a Cavalrachni with them. They have the Cavalrachni at their head, and then they, 5 or 6 regular Duergar traveling with them all invisible. Stuff like that. Just like we have like mounted police on horses, it's mounted Duergar police on spiders.
I just can't get over how terrifying that is. Like, you get stuck to their leg, they jump backwards, and then the Duergar who are waiting around just enlarge, and now they're each doing 2d8 with their war picks, smacking into you, and it's like, oh, how are you going to get out of that one?
And the spider's biting you.
Yeah.
And the rider of the spider is hitting you with its poison war pick. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bad time.
Yep. But pretty much anywhere, in addition to that, it's just any other place you would use cavalry within D&D, within wars and sieges and what have you, these would perfectly fill that role.
Only the horses can climb and be invisible.
And bite you for poison damage.
Horses can do that too. A lot of people don't know that.
They can definitely bite you.
I had a question around proning somebody, because usually the whole point of grappling is you grapple and then you knock them prone. Is there any reason why you couldn't be knocked prone while stuck to the steeder legs?
I don't think so.
Okay, because that also would be just adding on to the pain of being stuck on their legs.
Didn't we had this conversation, I know, maybe not on the podcast, but like you have to do that with an attack, and then most enemies don't have that, is the general rule.
Yeah, so they could take the shove action, and it's their entire action. They don't... PCs get extra attack, and so when you take the attack action, you can attack, shove, or grapple. And once they get extra attack, they could do any combination of those 3 things twice when they take the attack action. Multi-attack is just, it is what it is. You can't substitute it out like PCs can with extra attack. So these stat blocks, the monsters and Duergar and whatnot, they could still grapple and shove, but it's just their action.
Yep.
And there's also a bunch of other ways to knock things prone.
When you're talking about a lot of the Duergar, I think that's okay, because they only have 1 attack anyways. It's not like you're missing out on multi-attack, where it becomes really like, oh, is that worthwhile? Reminder, these Duergar are going to be enlarged, so they're large, having advantage on any of these, grappling, shoving, because shove is still contested athletics checks, right?
The person who is instigating the shove is athletics.
Athletics.
The one is athletics or acrobatics, whatever their choice is to avoid it.
Okay. So, yeah, that seems worthwhile to me, that one of them uses a turn to knock him prone and just continue beating up on this character.
Or they're fighting with a despot, and they just get knocked prone that way.
Or, yeah, that way too. My God, you're stuck to a spider leg, and just a mech suit man comes up to you and starts punching you. That sounds fun. And then just kicking you with his mechanical legs.
Yeah, stomping on you, yeah.
Yeah.
Or he blasts you back 30 feet into a pit of invisible spiders.
Oh my God. Now you're getting evil. I like it. Just PCs walk from out of a tunnel into a large opening, and they're like, oh, look, there's nothing here. Boom, punched into a pit. Boom, another one punched into a pit. Now you just have 2 PCs stuck in a steeder hole.
Steeder hole sounds terrible.
That's my nightmare.
Yeah.
You know how getting into a pit of spiders would be bad? Yeah. What if they were invisible and 50 times the size? So I think there's a lot you can do with the Cavalrachni. That's makes the Steeder so much more interesting. I know when we talked about it last episode, it's like, oh, I guess that's kind of it. That's because it's really just setting up for this.
Right, yeah. The Steeders are really, they've been domesticated by the Duergar. They're used by
the
them.
junkie spider is designed to be ridden like this.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's also worth noting, like, that it's not a bad strategy to knock out the Steeders first, because that really, the Cavalrachni, as they're on their own, are not that impressive. Especially if they're on the ceiling, you take out their spider, they fall, and they crack their head open.
It's true. That's a very good point. If they're on the ceiling, that's dangerous for them because they might be dropping 60 feet.
All right, and then the last stat block we are covering today, definitely the most intricate, is the Mind Master. The feared Durgar Mind Masters operate as spies, both in and outside of the stronghold, so the Duergar do kind of spy within themselves. They are psionically augmented, and to kind of make them like spellcasters, though they don't actually quite literally have spellcasting.
Yeah.
It's a little unique in that sense. Though they're also only challenge rating 2, which is odd because there's some cool stuff they could do, but I guess like their damage potential and hit points are pretty low.
Yeah, I'd say this is a time where the challenge rating might not justify it, because if you play them poorly, then they're going to feel really awful, and if you play them well, they're going to feel like a lot higher than CR2.
Right. So armor class of 14, hit points of 39. Its highest stat is Dex at 17. Skills, this one actually has skills of perception and +2 and stealth +5. Usual dark vision, same sunlight sensitivity, and Duergar resilience. It does have a multi-attack where it makes 2 melee attacks, which keeps it very vague, which is kind of odd. You don't see that much. It can replace one of those with Mind Mastery. So its melee attack, I guess, is Mind Poison Dagger. Attack +5, reach of 5 feet. Hey, it's for only 1d4 +3 piercing damage, plus then 3d6 psychic damage. Or oddly enough, if it's reduced, which we'll get to in a minute, it only hits for 1 damage, but then 46 psychic damage.
Yeah, that's, I think, the only time I've ever seen a mechanic like that.
Right.
Where it's like, oh yeah, if you're smaller, you do more damage.
Well, it's...
But less.
Yeah, it's just kind of odd. It also does have invisibility, which kind of has the same stuff as the other Duergar invisibility, but it recharges on a 4 or 6 instead of on a short rest. So it has more options to come up. It has Mind Mastery. It targets a creature that it can see within 60 feet. They make a DC 12 intelligence saving throw. If it fails, the Duergar uses its reaction either to make 1 weapon attack against another creature. It can see or move up to... Sorry, the Duergar forces this creature to do this by using its reaction to make a weapon cast against creature or move up to 10 feet in the direction of the Duergar's choice. If it can't be charmed, it is immune, and so it can just do this every single turn.
Something to keep in mind is that in its invisibility, it specifies what breaks it. That's attacking, casting a spell, or using reduce, or its concentration is broken. I don't think Mind Mastery falls under any of that. That's taking an action, not an attack.
Interesting. Okay.
So
if just kind of... Yeah, you could have like a legion of Duergar and a couple of these invisible, just using Mind Mastery.
Yeah, and they're going to be really, really hard to spot. Because
the question really is that casting a spell?
No.
Quick answer is no.
Yeah.
The longer answer is they can't cast spells.
Yeah. I guess it's
point.
just to specify if you as a DM wanted to give them a spell scroll and said like, oh, they're not really getting out of invisibility. They used a spell scroll and it says that they don't come out if they cast a spell. It only says if they attack.
I don't know if that's exactly their mindset. I have no idea.
Well, it's usually it's just be as specific as possible so that these weird instances don't come up that people think they found a hack in the game.
Oh, yeah. Or they just copied and pasted the invisibility description from every other Duergar and just didn't think about it.
Yeah, that too. Okay. God forbid I think they actually put some design thought into it.
I think they could have. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, the reduce is its last thing, and I think that's going to be pretty important. So it is the opposite of the enlarge, which all other Duergar can do. Instead, it reduces its size for 1 minute, magically decreases, along with everything it's wearing or carrying, to tiny, not even just small. It reduces its weapon damage to 1 and makes attacks, checks, and saving throws with disadvantage if they use strength. But it gains +5 to all dexterity, stealth checks, and a +5 bonus to its AC, and it can hide as a bonus action. So it can turn invisible, hide as a bonus action with +10 to stealth then, and use its mind mastery as an action every turn.
Yeah. Keep in mind, if it's reduced, though, it can't be invisible. It's one or the other.
Is that true? If it uses its reduce.
So can it reduce and then turn invisible?
I had the assumption yes, that it can reduce, and then if it turns invisible, it's fine. But I don't know if that's considered concentration on both. It doesn't say that reduces concentration.
No, definitely not. I guess it depends how annoying you want to be.
That's true. That's how the other Duergar things have been labeled, is that or if they're invisible and they use enlarge, then it breaks it, but it doesn't say the other way around.
Yeah, so raw probably could reduce and then turn invisible. There'll be 2 turns, but I mean, it could be invisible for up to an hour and reduce for however long it wants. So it could just kind of.
Well, that's not true.
Like that.
The reduce is 1 minute.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty short. But the invisibility, this one is going to have less of a problem than anyone else because it has the recharge of 4 to 6.
Right. But yeah, I think the best play: reduce, turn invisible, and
mind mastery.
Yep. Be real annoying, and no one's gonna have any idea where it's coming from.
Yeah, that sucks. Like, you're really not going to know unless you do some type of, like, if you know beforehand and you have some type of see invisibility or, like, way to give yourselves true sight of some fashion. I don't know how you're going to.
Which, interestingly enough, this guy does have.
It does, yeah. It has true sight itself, which I guess that helps it see other Duergar? Maybe?
I don't know. True sight at level 2 is also a little...
Actually, that makes sense because it said it spies on Duergar as well. It's not just in and out. So the true sight is probably so that it can be aware of its own Duergar that it's trying to go around.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you have something that conditions itself, builds itself up to be a spy on Duergar, and Duergar can just all of them turn invisible, you would need true sight.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. This thing sounds like way harder than challenge rating 2 if you play it correctly.
It's weird because once it's found out, it has nothing. It's 14 AC, 39 health.
19 if it's reduced in size. 19 AC, because that's raised.
Right. But then it's not doing damage to you or anything. Really, its only option... Well, I guess now 46 psychic.
Yeah, it still does 46 psychic. And it can do at least... Yeah, it makes 2 melee attacks. So it can do 8d6 psychic damage.
Yeah, but the attacks at disadvantage. Attacks, checks, and saving throws.
Made with strength.
That would be with Dex. If the made with strength is on checks and saving throws, or if it's separate.
I think those are all together. And it does use Dex for its daggers, as you can see from the +3 to damage.
Right.
And the +5 to hit. That comes from Dex. I would like that laid out a little bit more clearly.
Yeah, that's a low. Yeah.
But that's the way I lean on it, is that they're not using strength for anything. It's talking about if they... I don't know why it would make a melee attack, a strength melee attack.
Right. But at the same time, why would it cast spells when it came to ruin invisibility? I don't know. It's just a little weird.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the type of stat block that you decide as a DM what you're going to do and never show it to your players. Because if they start questioning it,
it comes down to how annoying you want it to be. Because if it's tiny, so then it has a 19 AC, but additional +5 to stealth, can turn invisible while doing this. And then
hide as a bonus action.
Yeah. And then attack for 46 psychic damage twice, so 8d6 psychic damage in a turn. That's annoying. That's just like a tough, annoying creature.
And it can still use its mind mastery. Like it could do just one attack and then mind mastery for the second one because it can replace a melee attack.
Slow. You can kind of nuke these guys from a distance, Because you look at Mind Mastery and you see some serious potential, but your players can figure that out pretty quick. They stand 15 feet apart, and then Mind Mastery doesn't do anything.
No, because it does not say make a melee weapon attack. It says makes one weapon attack. So you find a ranger or whatever, somebody who uses ranged attacks, and you just use it on them and have them shoot their buddies.
That is true. They would have to throw that down.
Or you just tell them to throw their weapon. Is that still a weapon attack?
Yeah, chuck the bow.
Yeah, just... I meant the sword. Just throw the sword at them. I don't know if you can do that. I'm going to say no because that's annoying.
Yeah, that's super annoying.
Yeah, also these things look really creepy.
Yeah, I think it's got a heart in its hand. It's just eating a heart, which the...
Wait, do you think that's what that is?
I think that's psionic power.
You think it is?
But zoom in on it. Click it. And zoom.
Okay.
It's like glowy and...
Yeah, the only thing that was making me think it really was a heart is because it's got blood on its face.
That's just like a normal thing.
It's not just always has blood on his face.
He actually just flossed for the first time in like 6 months. And he showed up and they were like, hey, we got to take this picture. And he's like, I just flossed. And they're like, that's perfect. Hold that.
And his face is like kind of like a skull, but sort of not. And his eyes are like gray.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
It's super creepy. I love this thing, though. I am mad I've never seen this stat block before because it seems really fun to use. The only thing is I think once the players fight them once, they're going to start just throwing AoEs just to just put a stop to that.
Sure.
Yeah,
for
sure.
And then they're burning resources.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I'm saying that's a good thing. It's like once you as a player figure this out, start throwing AoEs down. Just hit it because it's not that strong. Sure, it does not get advantage on dexterity saving throws at all. That is not affected from it being tiny. So yeah, it's just as possible to hit it as when it's big.
Right.
And also the intelligence saves, it's not that high. It's 12 DC. So
yeah,
it's
if it's using it every turn, I mean, somebody's going to fail and it's going to be annoying. It's really, I love the implication of that when you're playing because you're not going to see it at first. You're not going to know where it is. You're not going to know what's going on. You're just every turn going to tell somebody, make an intelligence saving throw. And there might be a couple times where they succeed, but the time they fail, they're like, oh shit, what's going to happen? It's like, make a weapon attack against, the person right next to you. And then maybe they spread out. Now it gets directed towards the ranged attacker, and you're like, oh, okay, we just have to not fail these saves.
Right.
Cool. Any other uses for this thing? Besides its spy abilities? Like if you need that for any reason?
Nah, nothing's coming to mind. Cool.
All right. Well, I think that's it. So we'll go ahead and we'll finish up the rest of these stat blocks, which we still got, I think, five more on.
Yeah.
So there's plenty more where that came from.
Yep. We'll do a Duergar Part 2 coming up. Probably not next episode because we want to pick something spooky for Halloween. Ooh, and then go back to it after that. But yeah, thanks for listening.
Next time on Monsters and Multiclass.
Join us as we discuss curses and cursed items, and then our monsters will be skeletons, ghouls, ghasts, banshees, and specters, and other spooky words that we can assign stat blocks to. We'll also have a guest from Lawful Great Adventures, so look out for that. It's going to be Ben. That's his name, Ben. That made it sound like it was like an adjective. Like, it's going to be a Benful time. Nah.